Well, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Wendy. How are you?
Good evening from London.
Yes, that's right. It's so much later there than it is
Yeah.
here. Hey, do you have daylight savings time or the equivalent of over there?
Yes, we do, and it won't be long before it's. I think it's the
Next Saturday night,
before it happens.
we
Yeah.
jump ahead an hour. So
Yes.
spring forward, as they say. So it will be lighter, longer in the afternoon. But what does that do to the mornings then? The mornings it'll be
Lighter.
darker in the morning until the days start getting longer. You hold your cup so nicely. I like the way you do that. Yeah, that looks nice.
But like this.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Don't know
noticed.
what it is.
I noticed we're missing the Roberts there, and we've got the Robertson, but we just.
Oh, uh-oh. You know what? I can fix that.
I think you should. I mean, we want people to know who's who, right?
That's right. You know, they wouldn't want me to mistake me for you.
God, no.
That's right. There we are. So, how you doing today?
I'm doing really well, thank you.
Well, good. Good.
How are you?
I'm about the same.
Good.
I only asked that so you would ask me. I'm doing well.
We're sort of matching as well, aren't we?
Yeah, sort of.
Matchy.
Blues. I got a little red to augment my blue and black.
Yeah.
So, are you wearing black pantaloons?
You actually thought you were like, just in case she wears red, I'm going to pop some red in there.
That's it. That's it. So
I surprised you in blue.
I'm versatile.
Very, very, and
Very.
it's nice to be back because we weren't here last week. We had a week off.
We did have the week off, and so it's good to be back, and it's good to see everybody gathering over there in the chat room and people starting. I see there's a lot of people here that are not in the chat room, so come on in and say hello. We may open it up to some questions and
they're all shy.
Callers toward the end.
They're all shy.
So, listen, Wendy, do you feel that you are valuable? And have you always felt that you're valuable?
The answer to that would be no.
Yeah.
No, it's taken me a long time to actually understand what that actually means, and sometimes, I think we're coming from the generation that I did, Generation X.
Right.
As we were saying today, we weren't meant to talk about how much to take care of yourself and love yourself and know your worth. We weren't brought up with that, and all of a sudden, now it's like know your worth. Know your worth, right? So it took me a long time to discover it, and I would say I'm still discovering it. How about you?
Well, let me ask first. Where do you think all of that came from? Because we're bombarded with all that nowadays, knowing who you are, what you're worth, what your value is. Was it the Gen Xers growing up that started doing that and implementing that? Was it the baby boomers who came before them that said, hey, maybe we raised our kids wrong, or maybe we need to look more? What really started all of that?
I think is a very good point there, because looking back at the previous generations, not all of them had that, look after yourself, know your self-worth, look after your self-esteem. And when we say to someone, know your worth, what I mean is, and you can come in many different areas, you know what you bring to the table. And I think life gives you skills. And, we're still learning.
That's true.
We're still making mistakes. We're still learning. We're still growing. But, you kind of know what you're bringing to the table. You kind of know what kind of a person you are. The problem is that I think along the line, a lot of us can lose our worth. We can be in a destructive relationship. We can be berated by people. We can lose our self-esteem and our confidence. And therefore, you say to someone these days, which probably comes from maybe sort of 90s, sort of the whole psycho, not psychobabble, but that sort of talk. Because obviously when I trained to be a therapist, even when I trained, and that was 97 to, no, it wasn't, it was 95 to 98 for my training. They never talked, even then, about know your worth and anything.
Well, that's it. And the whole self-esteem thing. I mean, that became clear. It was already cliche in the mid 2000s. So we know it started back then. So I'm only asking that to try to figure out what generation really came up with that. Was it the generation that was struggling with it, Generation X, identity and so on? Because the
Yeah.
boomers before that had come from, what were they? What do they call the generation before the boomers? Were they just the greatest generation or something that they call them? The World War II generation. There you go. They bequeathed the boomers.
Argue with that one because, you know, Generation X boomers, I might have to argue with that.
That's right. That's right. And which are you? Are you an X chromosome or a Y chromosome?
I'm an X,
So,
darling.
yes,
I'm an
yes,
X.
you are.
Thank you.
You're every bit of an X. And so, well, there you go. And so, the question, I only asked that question because I'm wondering, what generation and what were we facing as a generation that caused us to do that? Was it a lack of self-esteem that came out of from those that were born as the offspring of the World War II generation, which would be almost Depression era to World War II, and then you've got the baby boomers, which I was right on the tail end cusp of that. They say 1960. I've heard different dates, but the end of 1960 was the end of the baby boomers.
Yeah.
So I was told. So I've read. And I was born November of 60. So right on the tail end of all that. So and then came the Xers after that, the children of the baby boomers. And so they were being taught as they were growing up because they were lacking something. So were they lacking, or were they just being taught by the generation before that said, I don't want my kids to lack in this area where I lack, so we're going to teach them this? Overall, I'm saying this is a generalization.
That's a good point. Very good.
By the time you reach Generation Z and all the others after that, the millennials, I've heard it pontificated that I think I'm not so afraid for where we are in the world now. I'm afraid for where we will be by the generation that has grown up and has to have all their needs met and their esteem measured and their worth valued and so on. Now, I only bring this all in as a foundation to say we're looking at what our self-worth is. What are we worth? What are we valued? And do we value ourselves? And asking where that comes from, I think, is as important as talking about whether or not we have it.
Yeah.
And so I think we can value ourselves so much that we perhaps blow it out of proportion, and it becomes everything's about me, the me generation. It's all about, you never see so much psychology anymore saying, how is it with you and the person you love? It's, are you doing things to make things last? Are you doing things to make things better? Are you doing in your relationships? Rather than saying, and this is again a generalization, don't worry about the relationship first. You worry about self first.
Yeah.
And what's your value, or what are you worth, and what's your self-esteem? And we seem to forget value that we bring to somebody else, value that we bring to a relationship, value that relationship brings to us, the self-esteem and all the gobbledygooky, psychobabbly words that go along with it that make us better people because of what we're involved in, what we involve ourselves in, and what we take back out of that. So all of that to say, are you worth something? I believe I have value.
Not in some people's eyes. I mean, let's be honest, in our lifetime, we've been with people that in some people's eyes were worth exactly what they have under their shoe. I think you and I have both had that in our lifetime. We've both been made, they say that no one else can make you feel that bad, but actually
that's right.
they can. And
Okay.
usually it's the people you have an emotional connection to, or at least if you're a sensitive soul. But I think you have to really have a relationship with yourself, which I hate, because when I start talking about this, it's that whole cycle.
Yes.
But it's like you really got to know yourself, and over the years, I guess I've spent a lot of time on my own, and you have having a relationship with yourself is the best one to have, because you're stuck with yourself for the rest of your life. You
That's
might as
right.
well get to know yourself really, really well.
Right.
And you know, if you don't understand yourself, if you don't know your faults and failings, and
I'm
there's the
sorry. That
phone.
happens every week, and I forget to turn this off, and it's always an advertising caller. So sorry
I'm
about
sure
that.
that's where they know. And so what happens is, I think that you have to get to a point in your life where maybe you've been there, done it, ticked it off, you've been through certain experiences. Because I don't know, at 16 I certainly didn't know my worth. Probably at 25 I didn't know my worth. Probably going into my 30s I didn't know my worth. I think it probably came along, for me it was in my 40s for sure, before I kind of got
Later
that,
on.
I kind of, I kind of get and understand things more. But at the same time, people say, know your worth. Yeah, you'll see someone who's dating someone and you'll go, you could do so much better. You deserve so
Right.
much better.
Right.
That person is not good enough for you, because they obviously hold you in high esteem. And more, like, why are you dating this person who's berating you or putting you down, or etc. But when I came out of that abusive relationship, I had no self-esteem, and I had been physically and emotionally abused, and I was no one else was ever going to do that to me. No one else was ever
Right.
going to put me through that again. And I think that he kind of knocked one devil out and two devil in. And then it came out like a protection against yourself, like protecting yourself. And I think sometimes we all put up a protective layer to protect ourselves, because we're like, we've been through that before, we're not doing that again. I now know what I'm worth, and I didn't back then. I didn't know my worth when I was back there with him whatsoever. I didn't. And it's those years I wish I could go back, Scotty, and erase or literally change, because I couldn't. I can't. I've got to live with them. But now I'm a very different woman, and it's like, I do deserve. It took me years to say I love myself. It took me years to say I deserve this. Even now I struggle with that.
Well, look at what Heather says here. By the way, hello, Heather White. She is over in, she's coming from your basic neck of the woods when you compare it to where I am. She's from Glasgow, and she says, I agree. She says, you can see what other people deserve, but sometimes you don't think you're worth even more, though you deep down you do, but you settle for less.
You do.
It's the settling issue. And I wanted to say this whole thing about valuing yourself is that those who don't know their worth and their value consciously, they might consciously or even unconsciously believe that they're worth less. And such beliefs, those things can affect your thoughts, your emotions, your actions in everyday life, your actions in a relationship, and your experiences. And knowing your worth and believing that you're indeed worthy and valuable. Can you understand that you're worthy of being valuable to have worth? Yes. And it's essential. Those things are essential for happiness, for well-being. So if you want to talk about self-esteem and well-being and putting self first and understanding what we need, if we don't understand that we're worthy and valuable of those, worthy of those things and valuable, then we're not gonna feel the effects of those things. And so I want us to talk about what stops us from feeling worthy. We should get into that a little bit today. I know, what did Jason say up here? He said, sometimes it's really hard to find value in myself. Not like I'm worthless or something, but more like I'm just me and here I am. And so there's a lot of people that say, "Hey, I'm just here. I'm just doing my thing. What makes that valuable? What makes me valuable?" And at the same time, asking that same question of what stops us from feeling like we are worthy, we are worth something, we are valuable. And I, so a lot of this falls, Wendy, and please contradict me if I need contradicting or just add in. But I think a lot of this is that we don't we look at life as the thing we go through. We got to go to work. We got to do these things. There's a whole list of things we need to do to be considered valuable by society, valuable by our culture. Are you working? Are you contributing to your society? Are you saving enough money for your retirement so you don't have to fall back on anybody? Are you what are the things you're doing? And many of us let our self-worth be contingent upon all our external events. And when our self-worth depends on all these external solutions, it becomes absolutely unstable and it becomes unmanageable. And as a result, our feelings about ourselves can end up being at the whim of the world. If everything we are and everything we place value on, guys will ask a guy like me, and all through my life, "Oh, so you meet somebody new, and what's the first? Well, so what do you do for a living?" In other words, they're asking the unaskable question. So, what kind of bank account do you have? And because they want to know, maybe they're interested in what you do, but at the same time, they want to know, are you making it? Are you the person that is? Have you built up your value, or are you valueless to somebody because you don't have the external trappings that go along with what? Well, at least in the West, I know what builds up value. I mean, if we were living in a mud hut somewhere, out in the outback somewhere, maybe the number of tusks you have hanging on your wall would be. So, what do you do for a living? Well, look at my wall. Look at my many tusks that I have hanging on my wall. And so there are always externals that make us feel worthy. And we avoid the activities that make us feel unworthy, obviously. And this can lead us to pursue the wrong things that don't make us happy in the long run.
I think situations happen in life that can really make you question your worth. And I also think, don't the ones that know you have low self-esteem and confidence, don't they really know how to home in on you? Because I think narcissists, if we want to use that lovely N word, they can spot an empathic, sensitive person with perhaps a bit of low self-confidence and esteem. They know exactly how to home in and how to make them feel wonderful and then absolutely bring them down. I know for myself, I didn't feel worthy or I felt worthless for years, because when I was really sick with chronic fatigue and I would relapse and I couldn't work and I was pretty bad and I was in a wheelchair at times, I felt like I had no purpose in this world. I felt like I had I brought nothing to the world, because it was like, well, what do you do? And it still stays with me. It still stays with me. I don't talk a lot about my life in certain ways. People say, what do you do and stuff like that, because people only hear what they really want to hear, and I tend to keep a lot of things still very quiet. But I felt so worthless because people look down on you, and they do look down on you if you're not working or you can't work or you're needing a bit of extra help or something like that. People look down on you. If I remember, I've been cheated on as well in relationships, and
you too.
yeah. And you think to yourself, well, they must be better looking, they must have a better body, they must be better in bed, because this is growing up, like all these things you go through
Right.
as you get older. So I think when I got into that abusive relationship, my self-confidence was very low, and God, did he sniff that out? God, did he sniff it out? And I think he used that to his advantage, and that's really sad, because had I known who I am now, I would have actually turned around and gone, pucker off, I'm not
Right.
going down that road. But even now, that, and Val, I think will understand where I'm coming from with this, that girl is still in me. That girl had no self-esteem and confidence is still in me. And sometimes that insecurity, that, oh, I'm not sure, and that lot, she'll come out. That's what human
Sure.
beings do. They come out. And you have to fight sometimes very hard to put it back in and say, do you know what? You're doing all right. And I think that some people were just very, very confident.
Mm-hmm.
Some people aren't confident, and some people, was it fake it till you make it?
Yep.
Go out there, look like you've got it all under control, look like you know what you're doing, and fake it till you make it. Especially when you have to work in a public role and you've got people looking up to you. Sometimes you might be thinking, oh my God, I'm juggling all my balls here, but I'm not sure if I'm going to do this. You've got to kind of
Right.
act like you know what you're doing. Yeah, it's fine. No, it's fine. And you're like, oh my God. And so I do think that it's not always easy for some of us to actually get that self-esteem and confidence back. And it's like, if we carry weight, if we put weight on, if we suddenly look down and we go, well, we're fat, or we're too thin, or I'm skinny, I haven't got enough muscle, my hair's gone, I've got bags under my eyes. We lose.
Stop talking about me like that.
I wasn't, I promise. But we lose confidence. And so we try things to bring our self-esteem up. We might have
Yes.
the booties made bigger. We might get the Botox or line or fillers in, and we might get our hair done. We might get a transplant. We might go to the gym. Work it off.
Sure.
Anything to make us feel better, because we want ultimately to feel good about ourselves.
Yeah. And you know what? There are times that I want to just sit and eat. I want to eat something and sit on my fat ass and watch television all day, or watch movies, or watch somebody else do something, and eat my favorite foods. And then at the end of the day, you're so bloated and so out of your mind because all you've been doing is sitting and eating that you want to go to bed. And but then there are days it's like, I need to not do that kind of thing today. I need to hop on my Nordic track. I need to go outside and run. I need to, get out in nature. And it's the thing about outside, there's nature all over it. But you get outside and you do stuff. But it's interesting. Heather White said here, she said, I can do so many things and still wanting to do more. And people are so up my ass at times. It makes me feel uncomfortable. I still don't think I'm good enough at times, and I need to keep pushing.
Yes,
And
exactly.
isn't that what we all do? We keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Or when you think here, do you remember the old Johnny Hart newspaper comic strip, BC? Do you remember that one with the cavemen? It was 30, 40 years ago, and it was running for years and years and years.
I'm not sure I do, darling.
Oh, sorry, you're younger than me. No, his stuff is pretty famous. The caveman on the wheel that would run around the like little unicycle, and the stone wheel and stuff. If anybody remembers that, let me know so I don't feel like the oldest kid in the room. But he had one where there was one of the cave women came by, and the two cavemen are standing there, and as she's walking by, she goes, "Wow, you have awfully big, ugly feet." And she leaves the frame. And there's no words from the guy, the male caveman. He just kind of looks down and he's like, and he walks off with a little cloud over his head. And then it shows the cave woman, and she's saying to her cave woman girlfriend, she said, "There, I've just planted the first subtle seeds of insecurity in mankind." And 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 this is true. Sometimes that's all it takes. It's
But you know,
somebody
people do plant seeds. People do plant seeds in you. And I
yes.
think sometimes it's because they're not a very confident person themselves. And I would say the
Thank you,
narcissist
Scott Allen.
definitely comes about, like, you've got a young girl, she's full of confidence, she looks good, she takes care of herself, she's quite bubbly and everything, and she'll meet a guy and he'll come into her life and he'll make her feel wonderful and beautiful and give her everything she wants, and you're amazing, I've looked for you all my life, where you been, blah 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 blah. And then little by little they'll start to chip away at your confidence by planting
Right.
seeds that, if you are sensitive in that way, your self-confidence starts to get knocked bit by bit by bit, and then you start becoming insecure, and it makes them feel stronger because now they've changed the dynamic. So the confident woman who used to wear the short skirt or used to wear the low top is like, what are you
Right.
wearing that for? You need to put that up. I mean, we've all seen those adverts of how,
Yeah.
you know, the confident woman has turned into, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to upset you, and no, of course I'll go and change and put my trousers on and a top up to here.
Right.
And I had I've been in a relationship like that where it's like, you're not wearing that, are you? I was. It's a bit short, isn't it? I suppose you want everyone to look at you and get, and that really upsets me because, you know, it just really gets to me, because it's like they fell for you how you were, they fell for you how you looked, and yet they want to change you into what they want to mold you into. Especially, I'm talking about narcissistic people, not
Yes.
everyone. But I think that we should all encourage each other. We should be very much
Well, we
like,
should.
you know,
That's
I know you're having a bad day today, but you're still gorgeous. And yeah, you need to lose some weight because you obviously want to, but have fun while you're doing it. You know,
yeah.
go to the gym, go for a jog. If you want a pizza one night, have a pizza, but you know, you'll get there. Um, I think it's very important to encourage yourself as well. Like, talk to yourself and boost up your own self-esteem, because I don't know about you, but I can be my own worst enemy.
Oh, we all are. You've kind of pegged it right there.
Yeah,
I can be my own worst enemy. I put on, and maybe a lot of us do this, I put on a great bravado.
that's
I am
right.
like, I am confident. I am me. I am, and fuck all you who have a different opinion, because I'm okay. I'm okay. You're okay. And we go through life, and I do this and I do that, and you know, we get this thing going on. Yet we crawl into our spaces at night where we're alone. You're like, oh my God, when I said that, did I sound too loud? Did I sound confident, or did I sound egotistical? Oh my God, I'm going to crawl into my shell now because I think I've offended somebody. Now I got to do something tomorrow to undo that so people don't think I'm a cocky son of a bitch. And so those are the things that we do to ourselves. And we chisel away at the value that we have. And we start, like Jason said early on, hey, I'm just me. I'm here. Do I have to be valuable? Well, we're valuable in and of ourselves. It's what do we do? I think what defines our value, sad to say, is not as much how we see ourselves, but how we let the externals and other people affect and make us change the way we act,
Yeah.
because we start believing we're not as valuable as we thought we once were, which didn't require any thought at all. I'm just me. I'm here. I'm doing my thing. But then somebody comes along and tells you have big, fat, ugly feet, and all of a sudden your seeds of insecurity are planted. And you're like, oh my God, what do I do about my big feet? You
Well,
know?
we've all got that angel and devil
Yeah.
on our shoulders, and whatever one we feed is the one that wins. You know,
Mhm.
is it the devil saying you need to do this, or? But I think
Yeah, yeah.
I go to bed like everyone else at night, and I run through the day and go, could I have done that better? What did I do? You know, did I screw that up? Did I look like a Norfolk turkey today? Like, you know, am I carrying too much weight? You know, like everybody else, we go through that. But I also got to a point where I have pulled myself apart for years. I have poked and pulled and, you know, not liked when I looked in the mirror. It took me years to like myself. And even now I look at myself sometimes, I'm like, oh my God. And I
Yeah,
used
I
to, at
know what you mean.
school, I was so shy. I had a fringe that would come, well, a hair that used to come across my eyes. And I used to look, you know, I used to look up like that, right?
Yeah, the peekaboo.
And I wouldn't look people straight in the eye because I was so shy. And then I think training as a counselor, living abroad, different cultures and everything like that, it changes you. And but my self-esteem can still be knocked by somebody that I care about or I
Yes.
love, because they know how to hurt you. They know how to
Yes, they
penetrate
do.
you. And the vulnerability that's always under the surface, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is if you love someone and you go to them or you look to them for, which we do with our partners, and I don't want to hear people say, oh, you shouldn't do that with a partner. You do look to your partner for a bit of reassurance or to talk about something.
Sure.
And if they bring you down or they knock you down or they make you feel in some ways worthless or what, insecure,
Mm-hmm.
then you're going to take that more from them. And it might take you a while to turn around and go, actually, no,
Right.
that's not true. And I don't know about you, but some of my relationships, looking back, I think I picked people that actually would come on really strong and
Mm-hmm.
then just get me where they want me. And then they just like, you know,
The
pin,
bravado is gone after
they just start
that.
to pick away at you, like, what are you doing
Oh,
this for?
yes.
What that's for? You know nothing. And you know, I remember someone said to me, "You'll never own a '67 Impala. You'll
Ah,
never
thank
own it.
you. Thank
You
you very
live
much.
you live in a completely different world. You'll never own one. You'll never go to Canada. It'll never happen. You know, blah blah blah." And I actually got the Impala actually in one way, with kind of two fingers up to them. And
Absolutely.
I think that I proved to myself that here I was, I could get a car that I'd never had, never seen, never driven, knew nothing about, bring it over to the UK, do it all on my own sim. And I proved myself. And I think that it takes a while to get into that role of, I can do this, I can make this happen. And I think as I'm getting older, she says, as I'm
She's
getting maturer, I think I'm getting more confident to deal with things and to handle things and actually go, you know, I mean, you know, don't get me wrong. I hold my own. I can stand my ground, but I'm actually quite a really tolerant person. I am very tolerant. I'm very patient until there's a point where I'll just be like, no, I'm not. And I think that I'm
right.
only human. I'm only human like you, Scotty. I'm insecure. I have moments
I'm
where I feel
human.
like crap. And like you, if someone's if you got someone who's like means a lot to you and they know where to pinpoint those darts, how does it make you feel?
If they do what exactly? If they, I
You've
heard
got
you say,
somebody that you care about
yeah,
and they know your weaknesses
right.
or they know your insecurities.
I think, I think that people who are insecure in themselves, if they've got a partner or somebody they're with, they will find, for whatever their reason might be, maybe they want to find a way to hurt the other person or to insult them.
Yeah.
I've never understood the need or the drive for somebody to want to do that to somebody that they say they love. Um, it could be their own anger. It could be their dissatisfaction with themselves, their dissatisfaction, their what's the word I'm looking for? The contentment, their lack of contentment or ability to find contentment. And many times they will take that out on the other person, as opposed to saying, what is it that I've brought to the table that might do this? And maybe sometimes it is the other person's fault. Maybe the other person's a dick, and they're horrid at getting things done, horrid at making you feel better about yourself, horrid at life in general. And those are the kind of people, I think, that you need to distance yourself from. You could say that's a narcissistic trait as well. Somebody who feels better about themselves because they make you feel shitty. And so when our self-worth is tied to that any external, but then of course the external of the partner or the person that you're with that wants to diminish who you are, and if we let that seed take hold, we start to lose control of who we are. And we're constantly striving, scrapping, and struggling to avoid that feeling of being that bad thing that we told we are, that we didn't even think about ourselves before the other person said it. Now we're like, oh my God, am I that thing?
I
And
think it's a good point, because Keith said on the show on Wicked Women on Sunday, he said, I was told I was terrible in bed. And he said my self-esteem and confidence went so low because I was told it by somebody I held in high esteem. And that's the thing. If you have someone in high esteem, and we all hold people in high esteem, from time to time, and they then say something to you that penetrates your armor that you normally have up, then that's where the insecurities come. That's where where the lack of confidence. And so he said, I went determined from relationship to relationship to prove I was good in bed, to prove I was. And I said, and he said,
there, see,
I actually found out I was okay. And I also think it's like, you need to know you're enough. You need to know. I think that one of the worst, I was talking about it with someone tonight, and you and I did a show on this, and I still believe it's one of the worst things a person can do to someone: ghosting.
Yeah.
You have people out there sensitive, have been hurt through relationships, they've been hurt through stuff like that, and they meet someone else and they have their hopes up, and then they get ignored or blocked. I think it's so bad manners, and it's cowardly. And I also think it can be abuse. They actually say that if you are ignored or ghosted, it's a form of abuse, because it can affect you. It can affect you mentally if you're actually. And I've seen people. What's wrong with me? Why are they doing this to me? What have I done? What did I say? What did I do? Did I say that to him? Oh my God, should I have done this, that, and the other? And the next thing you know, they're eating themselves alive. And I think if people knew the effect, haven't we got past that, now? But if people knew the effect of what it has on our personalities and our lives, would they do it? Because at the end of the day, I've seen, like, a friend of mine, she had something happen to her, and she took on a couple of dates with this guy, and they were due to meet up and have dinner together, and never heard from him again. Never heard from him, never saw him again, just blocked. And she was like, but the last time I saw him, everything was great. Everything was great. And it's like, it's cruel. It's mental cruelty. And I said this to you in the show, and I'll say it again. If you're a worthy person, if you know your worth as a person, treat other people in the same way that you want to be treated. That doesn't mean you don't make mistakes, doesn't mean you say the wrong thing, doesn't mean you don't fuck up, but it's like, own it, deal with it, and actually know that you are hurting someone else, or you might be bringing someone else's confidence down. And especially the younger generation now, it seems to be so easy for them to just go, oh, he blocked me, or she blocked me, or she ghosted me. And it's like, it's a horrible thing. What happened to kids? What happened to, dealing with each other and treating each other equally in a lot of ways? So I would say, some people would be ghosted and wouldn't care, and they'd go, "Oh, Sodom." Do you know what I mean? I'm not
Yep.
interested, and that's great. But for those people that do take it sensitively, that have low self-esteem, that have been through a rough time, it's going to devastate them. They're going to
Yeah.
feel, what's wrong with me? And my bestie Tina and I, we often have this chat. Over the years, we've gone, what's wrong with us? Why do we do this? Why do we accept this? What is wrong with me that I can't say no? Actually, I deserve a bit better than this. Why has it taken us so long to get there? Why is that? That is a massive.
That's a good question. And I maybe a simple answer, if we were to extricate ourselves from every little piece of this and just say, looking in from the outside, maybe the simple answer is, well, maybe it's just maturity. So if it's maturity or maturity, if it's maturity that brings us to a place where we start to recognize our self-worth and that we're valuable, then is it the immature versions of ourself that are so easily wounded and offended and so easily driven back? And now I'm oversimplifying this. I'm not saying this is the answer, folks, or Wendy. I'm not saying this is the answer. I'm just saying this occurred to me because it always seems to come with, is it age and maturity, or is it it's happened enough that I've started to understand how it works now? So that's part of gaining wisdom is, okay, now I'm starting to see why I do that, why I react that way, why that person has power over me, why I have given that person the power to do that to
Gave
me.
the power away, yeah.
Because, you take the power away, you turn that switch off and you go, hey, look, I'm not going to be. And then we have to ask ourselves the question, why are we with people that do that to us?
Well,
Why do
don't
we want to be in relationships with people who do those things to
don't
us?
forget you've got the id and the ego, and
Yeah.
the ego is the one that we put outside, right? That's the
Mhm.
one that we portray outside, is our ego. The id is who we really are inside, right? And the id is all our insecurities, all our pain, all our thoughts and feelings. And sometimes, you put on this really good front, like you say. I put on a really good front, and you'll never know what I'm feeling underneath unless you know me
Mhm.
really well, because you might see it in my eyes or something. But you put on a good front, but inside there's that
Yeah,
small child. Everyone's got that small inner child inside them that has been
sure.
hurt, that has been berated, that has low self-esteem, and now you're this inner child with the 46-year-old person, or 60-year-old person, and it's still there. And most of us are swans. We look like we're gliding. We're
Mhm.
gliding through life. I've got this. But underneath, our legs are going like this, trying to keep up. And Anita comes up with a really good point. If you can bring up her quote that
Yes.
she put there.
Where'd she go?
I was
Oh,
told
there
as
she
a child I'd never amount to anything. Lucky for me, I took that as a challenge. Now, when people tell me you can't, my attitude is to stand back and watch. And do you
Yeah.
remember that program Lost?
Yes.
There was a character on there called Locke, and he was in a wheelchair, and he used to say, "Don't tell me what you can't do, because I'll go out of my way." And that has been me for some years. Don't tell me what I can't do, because I'll achieve it.
Mhm.
And I think, where does that strength come from in us? Where does that, I'm going to do this no matter what? I think it becomes because either we get so much knocked in us, or we get this couldn't give a shit attitude, where we're like, as we get older, I'm going to do it. And it is true, as you get older, you do get more confident, I think, in some ways, and you don't care as much, because you're like,
Or
done it.
the converse happens. Sometimes you get a little older and you start to learn things, but you get. I once had a guy who owned an ad agency that hired me as his creative director, and this is years ago. This is like 1997. Dates me, but he hired me and he said, he says, one of the main reasons I'm going to hire you, and he said this in the initial interview. He says, I'm going to hire you. He says, I'm blocking off all other candidates. I'm hiring you. You know why? He says, because you come across as somebody who life hasn't kicked the shit out of yet. And of course, it hadn't so much, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
But but then you start to. There are some lessons you learn that are somebody like you or Anita, and I've said that same thing myself. Tell me I can't, and I'll show you I can. That's usually linked to things that we say, I want to do this, I want to achieve this, and somebody will come back and say, oh, you can't do that. And you go, well, watch me. And then you take it as a challenge. But there are some things where you go, I've learned enough over the years that I can't achieve that particular thing. That is not in my wheelhouse, or that's not something I can do. And for somebody who pushes being confident and bold and doing our things, sometimes we have to realize, like, I like, who's a Dirty Jobs guy? Mike Rowe. You know who he is? Mike Rowe, the show Dirty Jobs. I don't know if you ever had that over there, but
No.
he became quite the advocate for, you don't have to go to university. You can, go to trade school or develop something. But he said, there's this thing, and he's got this great voice. You've heard him in a million shows doing voiceovers. But he says, there's this thing where we all say, follow your passion, and then you keep following that, and you're going to be great. And he says, but what happens if your passion leads you to something that really sucks? And he says, and you're not making it. You're following your passion, but that thing sucks, or you're really bad at it. He said, what if your passion is to be a country western singer?
Mhm.
And you work and work and work, but your voice absolutely sucks. It's horrid. You'll never be the next country western star. He says, sometimes you got to buck up and say, there are some things that are my passion that may not be the thing that I need to be pursuing.
Yeah.
And you learn, you get kicked in the teeth enough because you follow your dreams. What if your dream is a nightmare? And so he says, this is where you have to step back and evaluate who you are and what you do bring to the table and what you can do and what you should and should not do. And I agree with that. There are certain things I cannot do,
Yeah.
and it will probably never do.
Yeah.
And so I never strive to get there. And if somebody says, well, you'll never be that, you're right. I never will, because I'm doing this over here. So that's a different topic, almost a different topic.
But I
what
can
I'm saying.
relate to that because, when I, it's going to sound really strange, but when I found out I couldn't have children anymore,
Mhm.
I felt like, what was my purpose? What was
Yeah.
my worth? What was my value? Because, I'd lost 2 babies and I couldn't have any. My sister went on to have 4, even the last one in her late 40s, and I was like, I'm useless, And I had a boyfriend at the time who actually turned around and actually said to me, well, you're just barren like the desert, aren't you, Wendy?
Oh my.
And I remember feeling like, seeing everyone else getting pregnant and having kids and stuff like that. What's wrong with me? Why couldn't I do that? And it took me years, and it's taken me years to get to a point when I think that wasn't my destiny. That wasn't what I was meant to do. When the genesis of Wendy came around, it wasn't like, this is gonna happen for you. And I think that we all think we're going to go down one path. We all have this idea of our plan of life. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to achieve this. And it doesn't work out like that. And sometimes I think we need to be more gentle with each other, because we've all got faults and failings, and we all are individual, and we all fuck up and we all make mistakes. And it's like, that's how we learn. That's how we grow, and how our characters grow as well. Yeah. But I do feel, for me, I felt like, where was my worth? And, all my friends, I remember going out for a meal with the girls for Christmas. They were all talking about their children. they were all talking about their kids and being at school
Sure.
and Christmas presents. And I sat there and I thought, I have got nothing to bring to the table. I am not a mother. I don't have anything. And then I just searched around and said, well, I have my dog. And they were like, I said, he's my baby. And they were like, oh yeah, that's right, Wendy, you're a fur mummy. And then I thought something just crossed over me, and I just thought, I'm okay with that. I'm okay. But it took me years to
Sure.
actually get to that point where I'm like, so you haven't got any children then? No. Oh, he didn't want any kids. Well, actually, no. And so I think that women also have a lot of pressure, as guys do in certain ways, to have achieved so much at a certain age. What, you don't own your own home, you don't
Right.
have children, you have ill health, you've had a breakdown, you've got issues.
You can't buy a new truck this year.
Exactly. Like, so
Yeah.
your car is rented. There is so much pressure to be something we're not, instead of actually being who we really are.
This is what Anita just said. She said, it's not a confidence thing. You just get sick of performing for others and you realize you just can't be anybody's version of perfection. So you just be yourself. And that hails all the way back to what JP said at the beginning of the show. Sometimes it's really hard to find value in myself. Not like I'm worthless or something, but more like I'm just me. I'm just here. I am. I am, or I'm just me, and here I am.
We
And
say
that's
that a lot,
what's
don't we?
that?
We say that a lot, don't we? We go,
do.
I'm just me.
I'm
Oh,
just
but
me.
you're lovely. I'm just me. What does that actually mean? I'm just me.
Yeah.
What does that mean, Scotty? I'm just me. And
I
who is
think
it?
for me, it would be you have to take me as I am. If you want to be my friend, if you want to be my lover, if you want to be my partner, if you want to hang out, this is who I am. Now, that doesn't relieve us of responsibility to be decent. It doesn't mean we go slagging off on people just because I'm just being me, so I'm a dick. It doesn't mean that. I think it means this is who I am. This is the way I dress. This is the way I comb my hair. And this is the way I don't shower some mornings. Take it or leave it. I go to the farmer's market without showering. How about that? And, and usually it's personality. As long as you're not an abusive person or a jerk to somebody, I think it just means this is who I am. And what else are the things that who we are that people judge us for?
Yeah.
Judging. There's a word we haven't even brought up yet.
Judging.
The whole judgmental factor in all this.
Absolutely. Judgmental.
And when people judge us, you don't, you're not as industrious as I think you should be.
You're not as tall as I imagine.
You're not as tall.
Or the other one is, you look really good for your age. Oh, you look. How do you look so good at that age? And you just think, like, did you?
My bullshit meter has start to run pretty high these days. It's like
wow.
It's like, how many times have I had people say to me, "Oh, you don't what 63? No, you look like you're in your 40s." And I'm like, "Yeah, thanks. Pull this leg and it'll play Jingle Bells. I don't look like I'm in my 40s."
I'm going back in years. I'm reversing them. I'm not going forward.
There you go. Yeah. And you look awfully damn good for 38. I'm telling you.
I love you.
I know a lot of 38 years olds that are wrecked.
But it's true. Like, we do say I'm just me. And what that actually means is that I don't think, I was a very low confident girl growing up. I was very insecure as a young girl. I felt very ugly. I wasn't the good looking girl in the school. I was tall. I stuck out. I used to sort of like hang my hip on one side, so I was smaller than everybody else. I wanted to just blend into the wall. Nobody wanted to date me. I was, I felt like I was this ugly duckling, and it took some years to actually realize that, oh, you like me, you want to date me. And someone said to me, you must be so used to people paying attention to you and being all over you. And I'm like, no, I'm really not.
It didn't happen to me when I was younger.
Because it didn't happen to me. And it's like, only as I've got older and I've become more confident do I find that people respond to that confidence. People respond to it, and you get that sort of attention, because what they want is the person they see here, Scotty. They want this Wendy. They don't want the Wendy that is perhaps underneath the surface, the vulnerable, the insecure Wendy, right? They just want
I know I
here.
brought this up with you and I once before on the show. When I was at the Renaissance Festival years ago, and there would be some women would throw themselves at you. And I'm talking not fellow performers. That happened all the time anyway, because you hung around with those people. But it was the patrons that would come out to the show, and they'd throw themselves at some people, just literally, women to men mostly. And but there was one woman that was like that, and just madly in love with me. Why, thank you, madam, and so on and so on. And we ended up exchanging phone numbers, and I met her for lunch, and I drove up in my car. I was wearing jeans and a shirt, and I was not in my costume. I was not Errol Flynning it in public. And all of a sudden, she went to one lunch with me and was like uninterested, because you know what she found out?
Yeah.
I was not this thing that I was presenting on stage. I was a real guy, and she didn't want the real guy. She wanted the magical guy. And I could see that with you. You're stunning. And there would be a lot of guys who would fall all over themselves to go out with you. But and this is not a cut at all. Don't take it that way. The moment they would see you, say, without your makeup, wearing your frumpy stuff around the house because you're just cleaning, they'd be like, this is not the woman I thought it was. Yeah, it is. She just doesn't have the stuff on today.
I think it's more the vulnerability side, isn't it, of someone when they sort of see, oh, so you do this, oh, so you act this way. And I think for me, it was always like, it's taken me, like when you and I do these shows, of course we look good, because we want to look good for people watching.
We're presenting,
right?
Right.
You're not going to come on in your old undies and your old jacket or whatever. And I also think as well that you want people want to look at, they want to enjoy what they're looking at as well.
Yes.
But we do put on a persona. Everybody puts on a persona in one way, because we're protecting some of ourselves underneath.
Yes.
We have to protect that person as well. So you have a little bit of a wall up. And that's why, you're so good at what you do, because you are like honey in the air. It just rolls off the tongue, and you've been doing it for so long. And I'm still like learning and coming up behind you and going, okay. And you've been, as I said, you've taught me a lot, and I'm still learning. And I don't have this. I never, like when I do a reading for someone, when I do a reading, people say, oh, she was amazing. She's a great reader. And I said, no, you're as good as your last reading. And you must, I've worked alongside so many psychics and clairvoyants, the unique, the wonderful, the amazing, and their egos are out here. And I never want to be like that. I don't have this ego where I think, oh, there's this great looking woman, I can attract every guy I want. If that was the way, how come I've been single for so long? Right?
Yeah. I can tell you what, Ross, love them if they're wearing an amazing dress or just their PJ bottoms. I love Wendy both ways, with an amazing dress on or just in her PJ bottoms.
Thank you.
There you go.
And you've seen both as well, haven't you? Like you've seen
That's
the PJs,
right.
and
hello.
But it's true. It's like, I think that why do we sell ourselves short sometimes, and we go,
that's the question.
I'm just me, take me as you find me, I'm just me every day, this is who you're getting. That's not true. There is so much more to us than just being me. Yes. And sometimes we're frightened to show who we really are. We're frightened to show our true self, because if we did show our true self, people might not like us, they might run away, right. which then shows us what we were right to not show that side, because people run away. Because if people accepted us for who we are, like they say they do,
Like
why
they say they do.
why do they run away? Why are they horrible? Why
That's
do
it.
they just, I find this fascinating. People say, just be you, just be the real you, the authentic. Okay. And then
All
you
right.
show them something, or you say something, or you don't look a certain way, and they go, oh, I don't like you now.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? But I thought you did. And self-esteem goes right down the toilet.
That's it. So I you notice I posted the
I
link
noticed.
in the chat
Our
room.
country's up there as well. Look at that.
Well, we have got a some time here where for a change I don't have to bolt by 5:20 my time, 10:20 your time. So guys, if you want to call in, use that link. You can call in. Be prepared to show your face on camera, but if you don't want to, you don't have to. You can just call in and we can talk to you. Look who's here. Badoom. How you doing, brother?
Doing all right. And since you
Hi,
just want me to be since you just want me to be who I am,
who are you?
I'm gonna be who I am.
I'm gonna smoke.
Oh my God. Only because on Wicked Women he doesn't do it. He's like this.
Yes. Well, you be who you are, Jason. And what was it that Orson Welles originally said?
Oh,
I
good
don't
Lord,
know
a lot
the
of things.
exact quote, but it was before he was so heavy that he always talked wine before its time. No, he said there's something to knowing your own sense of style. You take it, you possess it, and you don't give a damn what anybody else thinks.
And you know what? That's exactly right. And it took a lot for me to get to that with a lot of things.
Yeah.
I was literally known in Waynesville, not necessarily back in Missouri, where I moved out here to North Dakota from. I was literally known, by the people who knew me, obviously by my name. But everybody knew me or knew of me as, hey, who's that guy that, looks like he's out of the 50s or dresses like a greaser?
Right.
Like, and that was just, it was, up at the diner that I used to go to all the time and worked at for a little while as a side gig. They just took to calling me 50s Jason. I had people who would be like, hey, do you own this place? Nah. I just dress like I do.
But did they call you 50s Jason or 50 Shades of Jason?
Oh, Jesus, Mary.
Oh, there you go. Get that look off your face, Wendy.
Oh, come on. He loves it. He
does.
Loves it. He makes things blush and enjoy the day.
That's right.
It was 50s Jason, because literally it was like
Jason.
pearl snap Western shirt, cuff rolled 501s, and I mean, like, a 3 to 4 inch cuff roll, and my motorcycle boots, and I always had my hair pumped, and that's just how I rolled all the time. That's how I rolled all the time. Out of work, getting up to go to Walmart, doing whatever. I dated a gal who even would be like, why are you getting all dressed up? And I'm like, I'm not. This is what I wear all the time. Where have you been for the last 2 years?
That's it. I have a good friend that many of us know, Sarah Soderlund. She is Paranormal Sarah. She's been known as for years in the paranormal community out here. Yeah. And she said to me once, I said, you always look amazing. You're always dressed nice. And she goes, I've got a motto: always be prepared.
Right. And I think my parents ground that into me.
Yep.
Like when I get on a flight, I'm not like, let me be comfortable, because this is going to be a 4-hour flight, and then I'm going to sit in the terminal for another 3 hours before I catch my, my connector, and I'm on a plane for another 2 or 3 hours. No, I dress well. I make myself presentable, and
I dress well, and I don't give a damn what you think about it.
Like, people go, oh, you're all so glamorous. You always look glamorous. You've always, and I'm like, but that's me. That's who I am. I love
you're glamorous. You look good.
I feel happy just like walking around the house with a ponytail and just sort of some old
right.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I can frump it out.
You have your down moments. Yes.
Nice.
And it's usually around the house while I'm on leave for an extended period of time or something like that. And I'm like, nope, I'm putting on those comfy twill
Sweat
khaki.
shorts that are cut off at the knee.
Right.
That's so. I had one of the best
Throw on my
compliments.
silkies and a hoodie, but
One of the best compliments I ever got was not even directly to me, but it was meant for me to hear. I was coming home from Cairo and I was boarding the plane. I had on a pair of jeans, just blue jeans with the cuff rolled up, and I had on my desert boots, and I was wearing, I think, a blue shirt like this that was open at the neck with I had my British Egyptian military scarf, wound about my what do they call those? The
shamag.
And I was wearing a tweed jacket with a nice silk in the pocket.
Yeah.
And and I had my fedora on. And I came into the plane, and that was back when I had the full beard and I had the little going out there, and I walked on the plane, and one of the flight attendants, it wasn't a guy, a woman flight attendant, she said to the other flight attendant, she goes, "Wow, look at this glowing gentleman." And I was like, "Why, thank you." And she meant it for me to hear, and it was a nice compliment. But you know what that was? I was also full of dirt and dust because I'd just come off the site. I had just come off it, but I wanted to look decent for traveling. So I threw the shamag on, well, what you have anyway, and I threw the tweed jacket and my fedora on. And and you always strive to, okay, maybe this is, I don't think it's egotistical. I strive to create a picture.
Yeah.
Right.
Of, if you're going to see me this one time, or meet me for the first time, or meet me for a time whenever, I want to look decent. I want to be decent. I want to be who I am.
And the thing is, like, I don't
Create
think
a positive impression.
I don't think we're aware, because it was back in January, it was my birthday, and I was taken out for my birthday to a really lovely restaurant, lovely restaurant. You had to wait for the table, and just in your world of your own. And as I sat down, the waitress came up to me and she said, "May I just say, you are stunning?" And I looked at her and I said, "Excuse me?" And she's like, I looked at you from across the room," she said, "and you stood out. You look what you're wearing, how you hold yourself." She goes, "I just want to say you're absolutely stunning." And I was like, wow. And I was like, first of all, I thought, was she hitting on me? But then I actually then thought to myself, from another woman, how lovely was that? And she was like, "Honestly, I'm being honest." And I was like, "Thank you, that's really lovely." But inside there was still that voice going, "Yeah, but you don't feel that good. You don't feel you still feel ugly. You still feel like the Wendy that was, and it's still there, even though you might think I look good and I've made an effort, because that's me." This is like you were saying, I like to look good. I like to have everything's got to coordinate, everything's got to match, including the underwear, right? It's all got to.
Well, of course, if you wear it, it's.
Well, obviously, Scotty, we know you don't.
So I just get colors that go with everything, so I don't have to worry about putting that much thought into it. Great,
Right.
Gray trunks and a white T-shirt. I'm set.
That's it. I buy all black boxer briefs. Black boxer briefs. I got 3,000 pairs of them. I don't always put them on, but when I do, they go beneath my jeans. They go beneath my suit pants. They go beneath my cut off at the knee shorts if I choose to wear them with those. And
and by buying thousands of pairs of them, you avoid the age-old dad thing of having holy underwear.
Yeah, I have no holy underwear.
Having them end up being, dust rags.
Right.
Yeah,
my underwear looks like, and can oftentimes be mistaken for biking shorts.
Just know that the like, it's like that Bridget Jones film where she says, she thinks she's going to get lucky, and she's wearing her really big Bridget Jones pants, and then she goes, "Hang on a minute, I'm just going to go next door. Give me a minute." And she runs next door and she finds this tiger
Oh yeah.
in like the thong and goes, this is a time for seriously thin knickers, you know, and stuff like that, and puts it on because she wants to feel sexy and she wants to feel her best, and she doesn't feel like that wearing the bloomers.
Listen, I feel sexy and cut off at the knee, oversized sweatpants. It's all about self-image, you know. And I'm kidding to a certain extent, you know. It's I don't really care, but I care.
Right.
If I know somebody's coming over, I want to make sure, you know, my hair isn't sticking up on end, or I've shaved or something, you know.
Well, like, and I admit, so like, there are certain concessions that I have made in that regard here lately because I'm packing and I'm, you know, I'm getting ready to do a, you know, cross country move and things like that. And so I'm literally like, all right, here we go. One pair of jeans and this pair of like twill khakis.
Yep.
And like these 3 shirts, and there's my wardrobe for, you know, every day of the week. I'm not worrying about it. I'm throwing on a ball cap. Why? Because I got shit to do.
You know, when I travel, the last time I went to England, I went for 2.5 weeks. And what are you gonna bring to wear? Oh, how come you're only carrying a knapsack or a rucksack? And I said it was small, and I said, well, I brought my shoes, and I brought a couple pairs of socks, a couple pairs of underwear, couple jeans, 3 or 4 shirts, all rolled up. You roll them all up, and I actually brought a suit because we went to the Shakespeare Royal Theatre, the Royal Shakespeare Academy, and so I took my suit and I folded it and I rolled it. And when I got to the bed and breakfast, I just asked for an iron and I pressed it out, and took all the wrinkles out. And that's a little tip for the viewers out there.
Tip for the viewers out there: if you're trying to travel light and you need to have something nice, go get it dry cleaned and pressed, and then just roll it, and then place it in there. It's a lot easier to just hit it with the iron or some steam and a hot shower, you know.
Yep.
And you look fine. But
one thing I hated going to Egypt, all the times I've been to Egypt, flying through either Germany or France, and going to Egypt, go to Cairo, and then you got to fly down to Luxor. All those times, your bag inevitably has the likelihood of being lost. Especially, no offense to my Egyptian friends, but Egypt, getting your bag lost is as simple as getting a bug in your soup.
Light fingers, they kind of disappear, don't they?
They disappear. And so I've gotten in the habit years and years ago of just packing what I need in a backpack or a
that's why I love my assault pack, as we call it. It's 72-hour bag. It is, you know, basically what it is, and you know, it's got external pockets and whatever, but I can put 2 changes of pants. I can put, you know, a whole mess of rolled up underwear and socks and t-shirts, and then like 2 or 3 decent shirts. Throw it in there along with my, you know, my DOP kit, so I can, you know, take care of hygiene. And it's just a backpack, and you roll with it. You throw it in the overhead. You don't have to worry about things like, you know. And if you know how to dress for your body style, you know the things that you look good and feel comfortable and at your best in. You can actually tailor your whole thing that you take with you for a week. That even if you cycle through it, you know, I'm wearing the same thing I wore.
You know what I've been known to do?
I still feel confident.
I'll be on the Dahabeah, the boat in Egypt, and I'm out of clean clothes. We've been digging in the silt and all of that stuff, and we go into the sink, and first we dip them in the Nile. You rinse all the dirt out of them, and then you go into the sink and you launder your shirt, you rinse it, and you go hang it on the railing on the deck. And you're in your cut off baggy sweatpants, and that's all you're wearing that day. Well,
I actually am the completely opposite. I actually take everything but the.
You have a travel trunk.
I have to because
traveling with a steamer trunk.
Steamer trunk.
I'm like
folds out in different shelves,
different drawers.
One suitcase with the clothes and the shoes, and then and the underwear, and then I have another case with all the other bits and pieces. And I don't care if I travel heavy. It's like I'm taking
How
what's
many
I'm
how many
taking
movies have I seen? This just comes to mind. I can't think of them all off the top of my head. I can think of a couple of the titles, but how many movies have I seen where there's the woman, sometimes it's the man, but the woman who has all these different trunks and luggage and all of this stuff that she brings on. It's usually like 1920s Edwardian to the 20s era.
Best
And
one
they
ever,
get on the
Scotty.
boat and the guy goes, and the master of the boat will start throwing her trunks overboard. What are you doing? You don't need all that.
The best one ever came out of the 80s.
Which one?
What the hell is all that? It's Her Royal Highness's match luggage. What the? Her Royal Highness's match luggage.
Yes.
I remember going
yes.
to Canada with an ex-boyfriend, and we were taken in by security because apparently our faces didn't fit. So we went into security, and there were all these lovely Mexican, lovely Indian people, and we were the only Europeans sitting there, like going, "Hi." Anyway, so he leant over to me, my ex-boyfriend. He goes, "If they go through that bag," because some of my stuff was in his bag. Goes, if they go through that bag, right? I'm telling them who it is. And he said, if it vibrates or jingles or anything like that, he said, I'm not taking responsibility for it. When they ask me, who packed your bag? I'm going to say, she did. So I said, so you're going to drop me in it? And he was like, yeah. So obviously, like, you know, you're sitting there with the bag, and they come over. And
who packed your bag?
I could just hear it. Do you know how many times I've been gone through customs in Cairo, and they go, "What is this?" I go, "Oh, well, that's a pen light."
See, your mind went to the gutter, but I was thinking of my toothbrush because I have electric toothbrush. You know,
there it is.
But I remember when he came over, the security guy, and he's like, "So, do you know why you've been stopped?" No. You're not going to go through my bags, are you? That's all I'm thinking. Don't go through my bags. Don't go through my bags. And he was like, and it was some ridiculous thing. I turned around and said, yes, I've come to look at the university that I'm going to study in. And they took that to mean that I had come to stay in Canada. And I said, I'm a woman. Do you really think I would have just 2 suitcases if I was coming to live in Canada?
Look at this. Do you think I can maintain this bags, with 2 handbags?
I would have 6 or 7 bags with, with this on top. But oh no! And I remember, but he leant over to me. He was very firm. He went, "If they've opened that bag."
By the way, hey Barbie D, she just came in. She says, "Hi Scotty and Wendy. I snuck in and forgot to say hello. Wonderful show. And I will understand that I shouldn't feel that I'm not worth it. A little late, but thank you."
Well, wasn't that advert L'Oreal? And he goes, "You know you're worth it." Like, with the shampoo.
And I'm worth it.
You know you're worth it.
So I can't even switch my hair out of my eyes without getting dizzy anymore. That's inner ear thing. That's how old I am. It's like,
well, I sort of can.
Because you're worth it.
Because I'm
do that again, Wendy.
Just
there it is.
Yeah. They need to stop having taglines like that on jewelry commercials, especially when advertising engagement rings and things like that, because all they're doing is successfully propagating the idea that a man should be fiscally irresponsible and buying some big ass rock.
If your man doesn't sacrifice 6 months of his earnings to buy you this ring, you're obviously not worth it to him.
Right. At which point I would say, you're right. You know why? Because having a roof over my head, having a car to get to work and take care of the things that we need to take care of, like mature adults, is way more important than your giant rock.
It's like, what kind of ring did you get your wife? Well, I got her. It's got 8 cylinders. That's all I can tell you off the top of my head.
a couple of things I wanted to say, because we didn't talk about how to keep your self-esteem and your value up.
Right.
Is to maintain as much as you can a positive self-esteem. Be comfortable with who you are, your weight, your height, etc., and be confident in the job that you do, in the work that you deliver, and being professional. Know what you bring in your job. And actually go, I am worth this money, because
Yes.
I don't know about you, I still find it really hard to charge for anything. And I'll go, oh no, I'll just do it for that, whatever. And then I think, oh, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
You've got to have a balance. You really got to have a balance, and also recognize the difference you make. Don't when you have a negotiation or a situation or a problem, know that that have belief in yourself as a person. Look, I do have this experience. I do know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you don't, and I do. But it's like, stand in your own power and say, actually, I do know what I'm talking about here, and see yourself as a person who can actually bring. Like for you, you're going for a job, you know what you're bringing to the table, you've got all this experience, know that you can do this. Stand firm in that and go, look, I know you might have other people coming in that want less money or whatever, but I know I'm the man for this job. I know I can bring this to the table. You need me, and don't undercharge for that. Like if they offer you a job and they say, like, I've been offered a convention to do, this is how much they offer you, and you think to yourself, well, actually I need a little bit more than that to bring that beast up there. But it's like you have to negotiate and go, this is what I'm bringing, right. I need this back.
This is what I'm worth.
So actually, with a lot of people don't want to lose the business, so they tend to undercharge for their services.
I've done a hell of a lot of that over the years.
And then you end up doing much more than you're paid to do. And then this can be, well, last time you only charged this, so why are you charging it more now? And I think the other one is to be clear about your values and your boundaries, to actually say, this is behavior I can accept, and this is behavior I can't. I like to be treated like this, or I like to be spoken to like that. And if someone speaks to you a way that you don't like, you just explain it to them. Listen, I don't like the way you're talking to me or how you're treating me. Doesn't mean you have to be shitty about it, but you can just, be
I will tell you something, Wendy. I have gotten to the point in my life a long time ago with this one. If I ever worked for somebody else and they talked down to me, there's this thing out there that says, because you work for me, I own your time. Meaning, and I don't care what they're paying you, they believe that you should be available when they want you available beyond what you've agreed to do. Or, whatever the case may be, you know what I mean when I'm talking about, I'm speaking in generalities, but the things that employers want you to do. And I've gotten to that point a long time ago where I would say, I can't do that. Well, I'm giving you this job and paying. I said, yes, and I've agreed to do that. I said, but what it would come down to, the bottom line was, this job, I will give you everything I've got, and I'll do the best job I can because I've got a great work ethic and I've got a great attitude. But there are points where I'll say, this job ain't that important to me. I'll go find another job if I need to. Yeah. And so I've had Rainey had problems with some of the upper management where she works. And it's a little job that she's got. Not to downplay what she does. It's just a Dollar General store. And it's 2 minutes from the house. That makes it, she took the job so she could be, and said, I want these hours so I can be available after school for my kids on the weekends. I'm not working those times. And then they kept offering to up her position, but they wanted her to work these other days. She turned them down every time. She said, I don't need that. And then they started to downplay her position. Then she found out they hired somebody else in the same position she's in for, now this doesn't sound like a lot until you're an hourly employee, for $4 to $5 more an hour than her. And the person didn't even know what they were doing. Yeah. And so she went and talked to the manager. I don't know. You're not supposed to know that. And I said, you know what? You let them know. I don't
But
have to stay here.
I think,
You
I remember
rectify this or I'm gone.
I remember being a junior in a hairdresser's, and they used to talk to me like I was a piece of dirt because I was
Yeah.
the junior. I was the little one.
Excuse me.
And he'd be like, do this. I was a skivvy. Do this, do that.
Yep.
And that made me feel like crap because it was like I didn't learn anything because all I felt was being talked down to.
Right.
I think in life, all of us are guilty of perhaps not acting as we should, or saying things the right way, or doing things like that. But you know what? At the end of the day, I think we're also incredibly stubborn as human beings as well. We all want to be right. We all want to be and stand in our power. But I think you've got to have your boundaries, and you've got to know what's really important, and go, like, for instance, if you don't like someone who drinks a lot, and you start to date someone who drinks a lot, and you're like, I can't do this because I've made that. I don't want that in my life.
Yeah.
I know what I want in my life. And also, the one thing I would say, and I'm trying to get this point in before we finish, is commit to your passion. Passionate people, which I would say we are, passionate people are far more creative than one just working to make a living. When you're involved in something that you believe in, that is fulfilling and rewarding to you, whether it's financially or emotionally, you feel alive. You feel like you make a difference. You feel like you bring value to the table, and your self-esteem will go up as well. And it doesn't matter who comes along. They're not going to kick you off it because you're like, I know what I'm doing. Be the brand about yourself. So Scotty is the brand, Wendy's the brand, Jason's the brand. And finally, it is not for someone else to decide your value, but your thoughts, emotions, and most importantly, your actions that determine how others perceive your value. And that's a really good thing to remember.
And see, you can say all that stuff about yourself, and you're going to have some jerk look at you and go, yeah, I'm still paying you only $7.43 an hour. They don't value you the way you value yourself. There is something to this, because there is that line between how I value myself and how I perceive other people valuing me. And I can tell you something. If that other person's value of me doesn't match up to the way I value myself, I'll generally walk. Well, thank you for the opportunity. I'm out of here. But then there are times I've had to suck it up because I need it. And I go, I'll do that job for that. Okay. Yeah, I'll do that. And I find those are generally the people that pay me 1/4 of what you're worth are usually the ones that abuse you the most too.
But I get that because I had a reading with a guy. I used to read for him a lot. He had quite a lot. He was quite rich, from Canada. Nice person, literally. But I said to him, there's a time difference. I work these hours or I do these hours. I don't do after those hours because, I'm not feeling well. My health's not great, whatever. And I remember he was late. He was late coming in. And I said, I'm so sorry, but we're going to have to rebook because I'm just not feeling great. And it's now an hour past and I don't do these hours. You'd have thought I'd smacked him in the ghoulies because he was like, how can you do this to me?
You know who I am.
I've been waiting for this all day. And I felt like saying, he goes, I want my money back. And I went, absolutely no problem whatsoever. Sent it right back to him straight away. And he was like, oh, and you know what? Even now he tries to be nice to me. And I'm like, no, it's okay. I felt like it was because he was paying or doing that or whatever. I was applying a service. He could just expect that I was going to just be there. I was just going to be there sitting there waiting, going, it's all right. It's 9 o'clock night. Right. I don't want to go to bed tonight. It's all right. You just bring it on. So I think you do have to have your boundaries. And I don't know about you, but sometimes our boundaries can get bent.
Very true. And so I could have a lot more to say that would just rehash the things we've already said. So I don't have too much more to say. I agree with you.
I just think we should end with this. As I said, finally, it is not for someone else to decide your value, but your thoughts, emotions, and most importantly, your actions that determine how others perceive your value.
Yes. Amen.
Indeed.
Amen. Nice to see you, Jace.
It's good to see you.
I'll see you on Sunday, Mr. JW.
Probably.
JW, yes.
Unless I'm wrapped up with stuff with the house. So
Wow.
I ordered a 6-yard roll-off dumpster so I can hit the garage
Nice.
this weekend and get rid of every last thing that I don't need. So I might get lost in there.
But not the 90-yard?
No, just a 6-yard. I don't need a shipping container.
That's right. Yeah, that's we filled up one of those once. When we moved from our house in the woods, we had so much shit.
Yeah.
It was like, that's where I coined we are about as mobile as the state of Texas. And we filled up the largest container you could get, and it was heaping of just junk.
Oh yeah,
And
there's so much stuff that I carried around from a decade of military stuff, PCSing to different locations, not necessarily having the time to go through everything and clear everything out before I move, and being busy, and so not really necessarily thinking about clearing things out. And the next thing you know, you've got boxes that you haven't even dug through in like 10 years, and
But aren't we all tortoises? We all carry around our crap, right?
Sure.
And it's like, we're like tortoises. I went through some of my clothes today and I was like, bin, charity, bin, and it's like we hold on to stuff far longer than we actually
I look at stuff that I have. I was just today, there's a storeroom in the back of my office over here, and I have boxes stacked up, still full of books, believe it or not, that are not out on shelves.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, should I just donate these? I haven't looked at them in 2 years because I haven't had a place to put them.
Right.
Box after box after box of books.
If it's not sentimental and you haven't used it in 6 months, get rid of it.
Yeah,
That's
no, exactly. So massive purge this weekend is going on, and
I'll bet.
It's a purge of one of the most sacred of male spaces, the garage.
The garage.
Yeah.
and and the thing about all that stuff, those are things that have formed and shaped who we are over the years.
Yeah.
And you say,
well, and then if you're a wrench
that.
turner, if you're a tinkerer and a wrench turner like I am, it's or maybe it's just a dad thing. I don't know. Scotty, you can chime in on this one. But it's like, I better hang on to these nuts and bolts, because you know what? I might need an M8
that hex
whatever.
nut. And you know what you got? You've built, if you've seen old timers, they'll take little jars. Sometimes it's the Gerber baby jars.
Yep.
And they'll take the lid and make a little shelf, and they'll screw the lids into the undersides of the shelves.
Yep.
So they can take the jar and screw it in each one on each shelf, and they hang there. And you go, oh, I need this size.
That's
and
cool,
you
though. That is cool.
That's actually not specifically baby food jars, but having been a maintainer in the Army and had a tool room, had a shop and bench stock that I could go to while we were working on stuff, equipment. But one of my goals, whenever I get to where I'm not moving for a long time, I want my garage set up so I can have, all right, here's my 10 millimeters, here's my 13 millimeters, here's my 15 millimeters, here's all my gaskets for this, here's all the
Jason,
metric over here and standard over here.
What you need, Jason, is children who use your stuff and don't put anything away. You go, I don't
put my own stuff away good enough as it is. So, I really don't.
Dad, I'll put it away.
I just need myself to make the mess of not putting things away.
Completely different. Everything is in a place and a place.
Yes.
Even my DVDs are in alphabetical order.
Oh,
And-
I know there's a place for everything. I
and
understand this.
Plated and everything. It's like I got to do it. I used to have an ex-boyfriend that used to move my DVDs without me knowing, and I'd be like, "Oh my god,
Something's not right."
oh my god!" And I can feel the vibe. Something's
Move-
wrong.
Yeah, I can
move
walk
the
in. I can
coffee
walk in
table
a
to
room.
the 8th inch to the left.
It was like, and he'd be like, he'd actually wait to see if I know, because obviously OCD. He'd wait to see if he'd wait. She hadn't noticed it yet. She will in a minute. And then soon I'd be like, oh my God, where did that get there? Or they'd move an ornament. They'd move an ornament halfway there, and you think, like, what's going on there? So I get it, but I feel in control. See, if I've got everything in a place and a place for everything, I feel like I'm in control.
Right.
And I can't bear a mess.
That's me.
Can't have it. Can't have it.
Do you know what Uncle Dave used to do to me? We talked about this once many moons ago. I used to have a lot of Renaissance and Tudor era. I'd have Henry VIII and Mary Queen of Scots and Mary Tudor and Queen Elizabeth. I'd had portraits of all of them, Shakespeare. And I had them all done, and I did them all up in the same frames, and I'd hang them up on the bar. Then I had the little tiny ones of all these characters from Tudor era, and I'd put them up. I had them over the sink in the kitchen. There was a shelf, and I had a couple of little pictures. I think one was Henry VIII and the other was Shakespeare, and a couple of little trinkets around. It was just a decorative thing, and it sat on this over the sink that did not have a window. And he'd come over to my house, and he'd move all my shit around without telling me. Because there's one day I came in and I go, I'm washing dishes. Dave's not there. I'm just washing dishes, and it's like, why is Henry over here and Shakespeare over here?
There's a poltergeist in the house.
And then he'd turn them around. He did one where he turned the face to the wall.
Yeah.
And I didn't notice it until the next day. And I'm like, why is that turned to the wall? And I'd call him, Dave, I got this picture of Shakespeare. It's turned to the wall. He goes, no. I go, so yeah, now that's funny, but I hate people.
But it plays with you because you're like, hang on a minute, the ornaments moved. Oh, I don't know.
It's okay. It's okay when certain people do it.
Yes,
because you know where it comes from, right? Like,
right.
You know. But if it was just whoever,
just laziness or carelessness.
But what happens when there's no one living with you and you don't have a boyfriend, and you're all on your own, and you come in one day and something you left has mysteriously moved from where you had it, and it turns up in the most weird place, and you're like,
Wendy, Wendy, I'm gonna let you in on a secret.
What?
Scotty and I chipped in to pay somebody to chip me your lock and go move things. Sorry.
And you know those lacy things you're missing? Jason and I look great in them.
I bet you went down my underwear drawer and you found all
good God.
I bet you did. Scotty would be one of the first down there, like a rat down a hole going, where's the lingerie?
I just raid the fridge. That's me. I'd be like,
the first one going,
what's in the fridge?
Do you know you know these rings I wear on this hand, my wedding ring? And then I've got a ring that Rainey got me a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those pressed coin rings. She got it at a festival we were at. And so I wear that as a secondary ring. I've had maybe 8 years ago. She got that for me. And one day, it was gone. I thought, where did I take that off? So, this one was gone. And I couldn't find it. It was a couple of weeks, and I was a little distressed. It had sentimental value. Well, then we started, we were laying wood floors down in this house upstairs. And I was peeling up old dingy carpet. And I got all the way to the end of the hallway. And I was peeling up the last little bit. Rip, and I tear it up. Something flies up in front of my face. It's bing, 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 on the floor. And I look, and what is it? It's this ring. It was underneath the carpet. Wow. That was all stapled down.
Yeah.
How did it get there?
That's what plays with your head, because
that
you're
plays with your head.
Wendy and I paid somebody to
yeah, to
actually.
come in.
That was,
Now, when you peel up the
sorry.
carpet, make sure you put it back under the mop molding.
I get an idea, and then I just start passing the hat around, and you know.
No, but it does play with your head, because you're like, and then it disappears completely, and you just go, where, you know, it's usually something you're like my keys. My keys are always disappearing, and I'm like, oh shit, where are they? And I'm like throwing everything out, trying to find it, and all my cupboards and everything, and all my
keys never leave my pocket ever.
And it's
mine are in my pocket right now.
And then the worst one is your phone. If you've actually put your phone down and it's on silent, and you're like, did I leave the vibrate on? If I ring it, and you're like,
call me, please.
Desperately trying to hear it, and you're like, oh my god, and you can't find it. I think it's quite common to do that, but I think then they play with you, and I can see Uncle Dave doing that. I can see him going,
oh yeah, that'd be an Uncle Dave thing.
He's probably going to do that from beyond the grave now, you know that.
Probably.
We all gave him an idea
already. My daughter says, I've got that big black watch coat, pirate watch coat of Dave's with the red on it and the gold buttons going all the way down. It goes all the way down to my, below my knees, this big black watch coat. Pirate, 18th century, 17th century. And
bless him.
It's hanging on a big hanger over there, just in this archway here. It's hanging right in there. Nobody goes there. There's a storeroom back there, and it's just hanging. I can see it from here. And my daughter, Rowan, is very uncomfortable with that coat being there. She comes in, and it's been there for months now. And she'll walk in here, and she goes, Dad, I get a weird feeling about that coat every time I come in here. That's Uncle Dave's coat, and maybe... She said, I said, well, why do you think you're getting a weird feeling? I said, do you think Uncle Dave is there? And she says, no. But she says, I'm wondering if he's saying, why are you putting this way back here? Would you put it out in the open a little more? And that's my 12-year-old. Who knows?
It's when you wake up at night and see him wearing it at the bottom of your bed.
Yeah.
You go, hey, Dave.
Hey. I can see Dave doing that.
Fun to pop in for a quick talk.
That voice, the captain's voice he used to do. I miss that man so much. And
me too.
We think about him, especially on a Sunday, because he was always there. But he used to say, I always never forget, I loves me a bit of Wendy.
And me a bit of Wendy.
He was so lovely. I loved that man. He was a big teddy bear.
He would stand out in the festival, and he'd say, I'd walk around with the guy who played the royal prince. I was his master of horse. That was my character. And which meant I was nobility. I was high nobility. And we'd walk around, and he'd say, and he was a handsome dude, this guy playing woman's catch, you could say. And he'd say, Edmund, he'd say to me. Edmund Scroop was my character. And he'd say, Edmund, he says, teach me to woo today. And this was out on the streets, and street theater. And so we're just doing our bits as we're walking through the crowds. And we'd stop, and people would watch us, find out what we're doing and talking about. And I'd say, well, Your Majesty, I said, wooing is just a natural thing. Why, watch how I do this. And I'd stop a lady, Wendy, you'd walk by, and I'd say, Madam, please. I said, may I? Indulge me. And and now Dave would be standing next to us. He's Captain Morgan. He's the big old, pirate. He's a privateer. So he's in with the royalty a bit, And so he's standing there in all this finery. And I'd take her hand, and I'd say, ah, sweet mistress, what your name is, else I know not, nor what, blah, 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 blah. And the blue of your eyes could fade the azure of the sky. I said, now, Your Majesty, that's how you do it. He said, oh, really? He says, I should try that, Edmund. And Dave would step up and go, oh, Your Majesty. He says, I got a much better way to do that. Watch this. I will show you how to woo a woman. And he'd take a big stride out into the lane, and a woman would walk by, and he'd twirl his mustache, and she'd look at him and he'd go, woo! woo, woo, woo. He'd say to her like that, and he'd come up and he'd rub up alongside her, and stuff like that. And he goes, "Thank you, madam." And he'd come back to the king and he'd say, or the prince, he'd say, "Your Majesty, that is how one woos a woman." And so, this was Uncle Dave. That whole story. This is what he was like. This is who he was.
I miss it, and I'm so glad I got to do that one show, Robertson with him. When your mic went down, it's such an honor to be there. He was such a. I never got to know more about him, as in emotionally, but what he did share was just amazing, and I miss him.
Let me play this as before we exit. Everybody's heard this. It's a regular to my show. 17 seconds long. This is Uncle Dave. Dave, I love you, brother.
I miss you too.
I miss you too, I heard.
Yep.
Did you guys hear that?
I heard that.
I miss you, Dave. Oh, hit it again. There you go. That was his voice.
It actually puts like my I've got goosebumps all over when I hear that.
Yep, me too.
We love you, Dave. We miss you and love you. And I know he can hear and see us, whatever, but it's like, that just every time you play that is spine tingling.
Yes. All right. Well, I think we should call it a day.
I think so. One of us has to get to bed.
And oh, well.
Yes.
And I have to dress down. I have to put my cutoff sweatpants shorts on, make sure get the red pair to match my tie.
Yeah.
And dress down for the evening.
And I have to go to bed and take all this off and look not just me. It's just me. I'm just saying.
Oh, well, we'll try to get that picture out of our head. Thanks for putting that picture in our head. All right, Jason, thanks for being here, brother. Thanks for joining us.
Bye, Jay.
Absolutely.
See you later, brother. And Wendy, it's just you and I now, and it's you and I saying goodbye. And so it was so fun being with you today.
A pleasure. Always is.
Always. And I'm looking for our exit link here as we're talking. Here it is.
Music. We need to bring a new up-to-date photograph of us, don't we? Really?
We do. When I'm over there, in May, we'll do a photo shoot.
We will. I'll arrange it.
One. All right. That's all I got to say about that.
Well, right. I love you. Have a wonderful evening. And as always, a pleasure. And thank you to everybody that came and joined. Much appreciated.
Thank you, everybody. Live long and prosper.